Motivation isn't some magical force that only lucky people have. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be practiced and mastered. Today I'm going to share 8 practical tips to help you stay motivated. This isn't just theory. It's something you can apply in your own life starting today. Some of these are strategies I use personally, while others are great tips I've discovered from reading some of the best books on motivation. Before we jump into the tips, let's tackle a myth. Motivation isn't about waiting for the right mood to strike. If you only worked when you felt motivated, you'd barely get anything done. The truth? Motivation follows action, not the other way around. Have you ever felt like this? When you start cleaning your room, it feels boring at first. But as you begin to see the progress, you suddenly feel motivated to finish it. Or when you start studying, it's really hard to get going. But once you've made some progress, you feel like continuing all the way. That's how motivation works. Action creates motivation. So don't wait around for motivation to strike. So, what can we do to always stay motivated? Tip number 1, start small and build momentum. The hardest part of any task is starting. So, make it ridiculously easy to begin. For example, want to start working out? Don't commit to an hour-long session. Start with just 5 push-ups. Yes, only 5, or even 3. Want to write an essay? Tell yourself you'll write just 1 sentence. That's it, just 1 sentence. Anything beyond that is a bonus. The idea is to set the bar so low that it feels easy to get started. Once you're in motion, you'll likely want to keep going. And that's exactly what we're aiming for. But here's the key. Don't overdo it, especially when trying something new. Start small and repeat it daily. Gradually increase your effort over time so it doesn't feel overwhelming. This will keep your motivation in check. Tip number 2. Track your progress. Whether it's checking off items on a to-do list or watching your savings grow, tracking your progress keeps you engaged. I've talked about this in a previous video, but I personally use a journal to track my progress. Every day I write a short journal entry about what I've accomplished. Whenever I feel unmotivated or stuck, I read through it to remind myself of what I've achieved. For example, if I did 10 push-ups today, I'd simply write 10 push-ups. I always keep it simple and short to minimize any friction. I personally use an app on my phone so I can record my progress anytime. My favorite is Capacities. This isn't sponsored, but I found it to be really simple, intuitive, and free of distractions. You can easily open it, and it will instantly provide a date-by-date journaling format, ensuring minimal friction. Of course, you can use any note-taking app or even a physical notebook, whatever works for you. Another great reason to track your progress is that sometimes we forget how much we've actually done. Keeping a record helps us avoid unnecessary guilt and instead focus on doing even more. Tip number 3, task bundling. Task bundling is a powerful technique that combines tasks you need to do with tasks you want to do. By pairing an unenjoyable but important activity with something enjoyable, you make the task more appealing and boost your motivation to get it done. I personally use this technique whenever I have to do something I don't enjoy, like washing dishes or studying. I bundle it with something I really like, such as listening to my favorite music. So whenever I need to wash the dishes, I put on my headphones and start working. This makes the task much more enjoyable and motivates me to get it done. What I find even more effective for boosting motivation is setting limitations. For example, I usually don't listen to my favorite song anywhere except when I'm driving. This creates a sense of craving for the song. So, whenever I think about doing the dishes, I get excited because I know I'll be able to listen to my favorite song while doing it. It's a great way to make even the most mundane tasks feel rewarding. You can apply this strategy anywhere. For example, you can do the treadmill while watching your favorite show, or enjoy a cup of your favorite tea when you want to study. If it's not working, try setting the limitation and see the difference. By restricting when and where you can enjoy certain things, you create a sense of anticipation and reward. This simple trick makes tasks feel less like chores and more like an opportunity to enjoy something you love. Tip number 4, motivation cue and less friction. Motivation isn't just about willpower, it's also about your environment. Sometimes, in order to stay motivated, we need a cue to remind us what we're doing. For example, if you're planning to finish a book, don't leave it on a shelf. Place it on your study table, preferably near where you usually read. Want to work out? Keep your gym shoes by the door so you can see them every time you go out. Personally, I always leave my dumbbells by the door where I can see them as soon as I come home. This serves as both a cue and a motivation to get started. This also helps reduce friction. Often, what throws off our motivation is the friction we create. When things are harder to access, we tend to procrastinate. But by making the desired action easy to start, like having your workout gear in plain sight, you make it much easier to follow through. And this is also important. Whenever you watch a motivational video or consider trying new productivity tips, don't lose focus on what really matters, staying motivated and being productive. If these productivity tips start to feel overwhelming, or if additional tools just make you less motivated, then don't use them. The goal is to make progress, not to overcomplicate things. Tips number 5, cliffhanger technique. Have you ever worked on something section by section, like studying a book? Maybe you finished studying at the end of chapter 2, and when you went back to start chapter 3, your mind started to wander. It felt slow and hard to get back into it because you weren't sure what to do next. Or maybe you're working on a project and finish one section, only to feel like you're starting from scratch when it's time to move on to the next. If you've ever felt this way, this tips might work for you. Instead of finishing a section completely, I leave it cliffhanged. For example, if I'm editing a video, I won't finish the task entirely on that day. I'll leave some work unfinished, but the key is, I already know exactly what needs to be done for the next step. This way, when I pick it up the next day, I don't need to warm up my brain or motivation again. I can just dive right in and continue. By leaving something unfinished, you avoid that feeling of starting from a blank slate and can immediately get back to work with a clear plan and momentum to finish the next part. To make it easier, you could always jot down a quick note to remind yourself what to do next. But personally, I don't always do that because it just adds extra friction. I prefer keeping things simple and avoiding any additional steps that might slow me down. The key is to leave your work in a way that your mind already knows the next move. This way, you can dive right back in without losing motivation. Tip number 6, avoid distractions. I think this is one of the hardest ones, especially in today's world of fast-paced videos and constant notifications from our phones. Every little thing can distract us and kill our motivation. What I personally do is keep my phone out of my reach whenever I'm trying to be productive. I make sure that only the ringtone is on for important calls, so I'm not constantly checking my phone for every ping. This simple action helps me stay focused and get more done without letting distractions pull me away. Tip number 7, reward yourself along the way. Sometimes motivation can feel elusive, but one thing that never fails is the power of rewards. It's like bribing yourself, but in a healthy and productive way. The trick is to tie your reward to your progress. For example, tell yourself, after I finish this report, I'll watch an episode of my favorite show. Or, once I hit my savings goal this month, I'll treat myself to a nice dinner. The key is to make the reward proportional to the effort. A small win deserves a small treat. A big milestone calls for a bigger celebration. If you consistently follow through with rewards, your brain starts to associate completing tasks with positive feelings. Over time, you'll start craving those rewards and find it easier to stay motivated. While rewards are great, they should be used strategically to avoid diminishing their impact. If you reward yourself for every little thing, you may lose the excitement. Tips number 8, don't fear failure. Here's the truth. No one feels motivated 24/7, and that's okay. If you're not in the mood to do anything, that's completely fine. Everyone goes through periods where they feel burnt out or just need a break, and there's no shame in that. In fact, if you're watching this video right now, you're already making progress. Even taking small steps like consuming content that inspires you or learning about motivation is progress. And you know what? That's something worth writing in your journal. The key is to start small and not fear failure. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply show up. Don't be discouraged if you miss a day or feel like you're not doing enough. What's important is that you keep moving forward. You only lose if you stop forever. Remember, progress doesn't always look like a straight line. It can be up and down, slow or fast, but as long as you keep going, you're on the right track. So don't be hard on yourself. Take breaks when you need them, but always come back. And that's it, your crash course on how to always stay motivated. If this helped, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more tips on leveling up your life. Got your own motivation hack? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear what works for you. See you in the next video.